Hey, everybody. Good evening. Sandra Sheffer, host of Racing the Races. We're back on Thursday. I know y'all probably missed me on yesterday, but I didn't have the energy for it. I should have, and I probably should have played a old episode and everything like that, but it's a lot going on. Every day is something. And most of the things I wanted to talk about was probably going to be immigration related. So I was like, I'm on with these lovely ladies, on Thursday. So I was like, we just going to talk about that. And then I needed to, we got to give ourselves space, right? Like sometimes it's just a little overwhelming. And yes. I said, like, how low can you go? And then he finds a way to go lower. And I was just like, I'm going to just wait till tomorrow while I'm on with my sisters. And then, we'll talk about it and see what's going on. So, of course, I'm here with Dr. Naomi Blemur, ran twice for office, ran for Commissioner of Agriculture and Mayor of North Miami. Christine Sanon-Jules ran for Congress twice and for Florida State Rep. Yeah, District 107. And so I know I shouldn't be introducing them, but we just trying to get this started. So ladies, what y'all want to talk about this week? Because I might be the Debbie Downer of the day. So what y'all got going on?
I mean, there's so much. I guess we can open the floor with, the top 3 things that are at the headlines right now. And we know that they are looking to increase ICE arrests. Literally, they're looking to do about 3,000 people a day, which would actually bring a surge to the detention facilities with over 50,000 individuals currently held in ICE. So, when we think about those numbers, it sounds insane. And so let's just begin right there.
So, I mean, it's okay. So 3,000 arresting 3,000 people a day is just like you said, where they're going to put them. They're offering these judges early retirement. And I think what they're doing, because one of the things I've seen is that they're doing, if people have been here less than 2 years, they're doing something, they're putting in what they call expedited removal proceedings, pretty much getting them interviewed and ordering them deported, even if they've expressed fear. They do say, okay, well, we'll give you a chance to, see a judge, but if they don't think you have any fear, they're going to order you deported and send you right away. And so that may be the way in which they're going to, arrest 3,000 people without planning on actually detaining them consistently, right? They want to arrest 3,000 and hopefully they're going to send 2,900 back like within a matter of days or weeks, because that's the only way that becomes sustainable, right? And then I also think they're trying to make the conditions so bad that people just agree to leave. They just like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm sick of it. It's okay. Just get me out of here, right? Because they don't have the capacity for 3,000 people. If they want to arrest 3,000 people a day, that means that they're just going to stop arresting people that are actually committing crimes in the United States, and they're going to use their jail space solely for the purposes of detaining migrants, because you're not building that fast, right? You're not building that capacity that fast for you to sustain arresting 3,000 people a day, right? Like that's the size, that's the population of just jails, right? Like some jails only house 3,000 to 5,000 people daily anyway, right? And so now you're trying to do this, and is this something that they're trying to do throughout the United States? Like, are you arresting 200 people in every state? Like what are we doing? Like I don't understand. Again, it's something that's not sustainable, and the only way you sustain that is by you find a more inhumane way to treat people than you're already treating them.
So did anyone see that it was a really powerful speech on the Senate floor? Well, not on the Senate floor. I think it was in committee when Senator Murphy was talking to Homeland Security Christine Noem, and he said you running out of money, which is illegal. Like you don't even have money to run your operation. So my question is, where are they going to get the money for that. $3,000 a day, you don't have the money for that. Period.
So he does not pay his bills, right? So the facilities that are going to get stuck housing these people are just not going to get paid. That's what's going to happen. They're going to go, they're going to have those people, they think they're going to get their money, they're not going to get it. And then the other thing that's happening too is that there's there's a significant number of prisons and jails in the United States that are owned by private companies like Core Civic, Geo Group, or whatever, right? And so Geo is probably making so much money that if they don't get paid for everybody, they might be okay because they're probably overcharging on the ones that they have anyway, right? So like in that instance, they're making so much more money than they made before because of the increase in detention and them having to get new space, that it might, it might be okay with them because their contractual amount is sufficient. Other facilities, however, who are really going to rely, like true county jails that's going to have these folks who are going to rely on getting paid from the federal government, they may just get stuck with a bill.
And, to Christine's point, what was so powerful about this hearing, is that what it was, Christine, a hearing? As I was watching it, the look on her face as he's literally said to her, "You are reckless." Number one. Number two, you are out of funds. And number three, you are not doing the work of the people because we gave you our budget and you have totally ignored this budget and you're not even halfway into the year. And so essentially he was saying that you were appointed to do the work of the people and you have literally went rogue, and we need to rail you in. And honestly, the look on her face was just like just in total shock, right? As if she didn't know that this is where she was at, or as if she had not taken a moment to assess the body of work that she has done in the last 5 months and evaluate how much is she spending and what's left. It's as if what's wrong with him? And, I remember saying to Christine after watching it, I'm like, if that is not a rude awakening, which I'm sure she's just going to continue to do whatever she wants to do, right? But as someone who was appointed to serve the United States of America, I walked away understanding the burden that comes with that responsibility and just hoping that she got it, because he was not talking about politics. He was not talking about, Democrats versus Republican. He was basically telling her, you took an oath to do A, B, C, D. This is your job. And this is where you fare right now. And you're not even 6 months in.
But I don't think any of them are doing the people's work. I don't think anyone he appointed is doing the work of the people of the United States. Not the AG. She's behaving like she's his own personal attorney and not the attorney for the people of the United States of America. The person who's in charge of the Department of Education. There's some good news that came out of that. The courts are like, you cannot dissolve the Department of Education, right? So one of the things that's happening is that he's losing in court, but the news don't talk about that enough. And I think if they balanced out the conversation and talked about his losses as too, people would feel just a little bit more better and hopeful, because they all keep talking about just the nonsense and the crazy that's happening and that's being done, as opposed to just balancing out the conversation and letting people know that he's absolutely losing in court. But I think this is also, was that the same hearing where they asked her about habeas corpus and she couldn't answer and she didn't know what it was? Or is this a different, is this a different conversation, right? Because we have a bunch of people who are confirmed by that Republican Senate, that really that are not qualified for none of those positions. They're not qualified for any of the jobs that they have. So, and what, do they care about budgets? Clearly they don't care about budgets. They're firing people without doing an analysis. They don't care. They
are Republicans. They're supposed to be fiscally responsible. Mm-hmm. That's their theme. That's their motto, right? And they're spending, look, Elon Musk left the administration, whatever, because he says that this big, beautiful bill is going to is going to put us at a huge deficit. And that's not what his job was for. He's supposed to try to save money, and all the administration wants to do is spend, take. So, you know.
So I think he's trying to rehab his image because he can't handle all those Tesla protest smoke right now, right? Like his private affairs have just been in shambles as a result of him trying to get into government. But I mean, I'm sure he left with a whole bunch of contracts.
Let's put a pin in here, right? Like, I get the whole Tesla things, but you know, one of my friends owned a Tesla, and
I know some people with Teslas too.
I mean, like, why y'all vandalizing the people's car? Like, all right, like, I get it. You can protest, you can be at the dealership, but don't vandalize the people's cars. I mean, that's just wrong.
I
mean, I'm not supporting vandalism. I'm supporting
no one is supporting vandalism, and not one Democrat, not even no one's supporting vandalism.
And this is where I just feel like, listen, you're fighting, like you're fighting the wrong thing. Okay, let's stay focused, right? Let's.
No, that was
I don't know about
there was some benefit in that.
Yes, absolutely.
No, listen,
not in vandalizing.
I'm not even gonna have the conversation with you but all I'm saying is I know people who own Teslas and like, you know,
they're very fine people.
Say that again?
And they're very fine people.
Yes, they are very fine people.
Listen, you don't open a can of worms if you don't want to catch this.
She told me the other night, like, she would not come out of there's a supermarket that she usually go by her house, and she had to literally call her husband to be like, you know, come, because I just don't feel safe. And I just feel like as Americans, like, you know, yes, we are here to defend those that do not have the capacity to speak up for themselves and use our platforms to speak to speak truth to power. Period. Right? But then when there are just like average day-to-day people who are just literally minding their own business and getting the crossfire of politics and putting everyday people's livelihood in danger, I just think that this is where we need to like stop it. Just stop it.
So the Trump administration is putting everyday people's livelihood in danger on a daily basis, but that's besides the point. She needs to get a bumper sticker. She needs to get. I let you go, girl. I let you have that time. I'm reclaiming my time. Tell your friend to get a bumper sticker that says, "I'm not one of them. I got this before the election." Sorry to get a bumper sticker. Because no one condones that, but there are some people that take an opportunity, like even with the Black Lives Matter movement, people took that opportunity just to vandalize and to do bad things. So there's not a culture around saying, hey, every Tesla, let's vandalize it. My goddaughter drives a Tesla, you know? So I am very like, and she's in high school. Does her car need to be vandalized? Absolutely not. Girl, get a bumper sticker. Like, let people know I'm not part of this. Like, leave that alone. But also you have to understand that some things are not really related to the movement. Some people just take the opportunity to do bad things just because they're just bad people.
And so this is what I was told about. So you said get that bumper sticker. So I heard that when they get the bumper sticker, then the MAGA people vandalize their cars. So they're not winning, right? No, I'm straight up. Like, I know someone who, like, I got that, my friend got that, they got that bumper sticker, and then then MAGA came after them because they live in a MAGA type neighborhood, right?
Stop it. So everybody stop it.
That was before he whatever, and the car got vandalized by MAGA. So
everybody just stop it. Do not touch people's private property. Period.
No, and I agree, because like I said, I know like people that I really like that have Teslas. You know what I'm saying? And for a long time, my son wanted one. I never got one, but listen, but when I was talking about what's happening with Tesla, it was more the protest at the showroom, not the endangering the lives of private citizens who own those vehicles, but there were weekly protests. I know in Broward County, they were doing weekly protests at the Tesla dealership to the point where, and then even like with Canada was like, you can't bring that car here, but there was a little bit more to that story too, because it turns out that Tesla was like abusing their rebate program. So they were doing some shady stuff in selling their Teslas to Canada. At least that's how I understood what I read. So there's a lot of different reasons on why that particular brand of vehicle and that company is facing a lot of backlash.
Well, listen, I just wanted to take the opportunity just to publicly say, listen, leave people's private properties alone. You know, you have like everyday people who are fearful, and you know, they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be, you know. And when I was listening to her in the car, she was like, listen, like seriously, Naomi, I was scared. Like the car has been scratched, it's been this, it's been that. And I'm just like, you know, we're going down the wrong hole. You understand? Like,
so I'm very sympathetic of people and all of their fears, but you know, it's a lot of people that are scared about a lot more serious stuff than them worried about, and then their Tesla getting scratched.
The point is,
and I'm not trying to minimize their experience, but I'm telling you,
right is right, wrong is wrong. We need to fight against the policies. We need to fight against the leadership that is bringing forth these policies, and we need to defend our rights, right, as individuals, and we need to speak up as engaged voters. But I think that where we cross the line is when everyday people, who some of them are not even engaged in politics for whatever reason, right, but because they drive a specific vehicle, now they're a target. I think that's where we're missing the boat. Okay,
so hold on.
That's a very privileged position to have right now.
We as too many people, because we also need to know how to disassociate some acts from a movement. No one is ever calling for violence whatsoever. And the only time I've ever seen a leader of a party call for violence is January 6th. I'm just
we're not going there. We're having a specific conversation around people.
Naomi, I am clarifying. I just want to clarify, because you keep saying we. Naomi, you keep saying we. And I just want to let you know that no one in this movement to take our country back, like in the Democratic Party or, any activists that I know, are involved in vandalism. So
or encouraging people to do that. So all I'm saying is, when you say we, I don't want you to associate what you're doing, the work that you're doing right now for immigration and for, human rights. I don't want you to associate that with somebody that's afraid because their car may be vandalized. Like, we're not a part of that. We're not.
Christine, what I'm saying is that with someone like me who has a platform and who's speaking up for what is wrong, right, versus what is right, at any point in the conversation or in the space that we're in, that wrong is being done to others, we should speak up for it. And even if it may not be a part of what we are promoting, but the fact that it is a part of the narrative, right? Because we're specifically talking about Tesla, and we're specifically talking about those that are boycotting it. We also should voice the fact that we should not be vandalizing personal property. That's all I'm saying.
That they should not be vandalizing personal property, because that's what I'm saying, we too many people. But okay, next. I'm just saying, clarify, because I want to make sure that, no one is ever promoting vandalism. No one, not on this show, period.
And look how they distracted us, and we spent like 8 minutes talking about like Tesla instead of what's going on.
Distracting people, and it's a situation where you could possibly have that person on your side, but now that you are literally not speaking against what is happening, it could make the person feel like, yo, listen.
But they don't know who did that. So first of all, because that's one of those things that's, come on now, you don't necessarily know who did that. That could actually be the family of a person who was an immigrant, who like their relative just got picked up and sent to some small town somewhere that they're not going to see and get deported. That could have been mad and messed up that Tesla, right? So we don't know who's doing that. So but I do understand the core part. Like, you don't want somebody just to be living in fear because of their car. But like, in a grander scheme of things, we got people living in fear every day just because of the way they look. and a choice that they didn't make, right? Like you have young kids who didn't make no choices. Their parents might have made some choice or the grandparent might have made some choice, and they're living in fear that they're going to get picked up at their school or they're not going to see their parents no more. So there's some people that's dealing with some real fears right here, right? As opposed to something that, you may need to just go get another car. You may not want to, but that's actually something that seriously, that's something that you really could do something about, right? Whereas other people who are walking around with brown skin, they just getting picked up. Before we got on, Christine gave us an example of something that she witnessed. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like that's something that people really need to be worried about, the fact that, oh my God, I can't drive my Tesla. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I'm not trying to minimize that experience because I understand. Listen, I'm a person that used to have dreadlocks and I used to drive fancy cars, and my driving record was horrible because I stayed getting pulled over. So I know what it is to be profiled. I totally understand being profiled. And I know she doesn't want to be profiled because of the vehicle. However, I drive a Camry now. I don't got them same problems no more. You understand? So there's really a solution to that. She may not like it, but there's a solution. Whereas again, we got brown people just tell us what happened, Christine.
So I was in Boston. I was out of town celebrating a friend who opened up a Haitian restaurant in Boston. It was amazing. Shout out to Goumwe Creole in Mattapan, Massachusetts. So I am rushing to the airport and I'm leaving the Airbnb. I'm on the street. There's a truck, a red truck, pickup truck. And I see these two Hispanic men picking up garbage, putting it in the back of their truck. They're going from place to place and they just pick up the garbage, this black bag of garbage, put in the back of their truck. We're at the light. Literally, this happened, I can't even tell you, within minutes. We make a left. I was behind them. Y'all, I was behind them. We make a left. They go first. Some cars are coming my way, so I had to wait to make my left. And as soon as I make my left, these guys have already been pulled over. ICE is taking them out of the car and arresting them. 5 minutes before, they were working. 5 minutes later, they were being arrested by ICE. And all I could think of is, who wants to go to work? Like the fear you must have just waking up and just saying, am I going to come back home today? Am I going to get arrested, detained, or deported today? I get on this show and I advocate for migrants and I advocate for fair treatment. I've never witnessed somebody get arrested by ICE. And so it's like forever ingrained in my mind.
And isn't that a lot of energy? Like you said, it was like a whole bunch of cars, just like
so unnecessary. I feel like it was 6. It was a mix. There were like some brown vehicle. Anyways, I just saw like 6 vehicles and a bunch of ICE officers. And I was just like, all of this for 2 men. 2 men.
That's not cheap. That's not cheap. It's not cheap. That's money being spent. Hours being spent. Listen, we don't know what those guys did. We don't know who those guys are. Maybe they El Chapo cousin or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Or maybe maybe they're connected to the cartel, and we really need to put in all of that effort for them. I don't know. I'm back on that. But I also heard that the president kind of gave a pass for some of El Chapo relatives and allowed them to come into the United States. So he picking and choosing what bad hombres he like and don't like. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but that's a lot of energy. That's a lot of energy. That's a lot of money being spent. And you can't tell me that we're okay with the country already having trillions and trillions dollars of debt, that you want to go spend all that money to go pick up 2 guys that was probably doing a service by picking up this garbage on the side of the road.
Yeah. It was really heartbreaking. Really, really heartbreaking. And I had just finished praising Boston for being so diverse. They celebrate Haitians, they celebrate their Chinese community and their Dominican community. Like it's a melting pot, and they all love each other. Everyone eats at everybody's restaurants. And it was like this. I'm like, this is what makes America great. Diversity is what makes America great. And then bam, these 2 guys.
The highs and lows of life, right? The highs and lows.
Okay, ladies, moving on. Okay, so Sandra, tell me about this. So I read, right, that Homeland Security has published a list of over 500 communities it deems non-compliant with federal immigration enforcement. What's going on there?
Listen, I don't know what's going on with them people because, like, this is the thing. Like, I answer one question today and say one thing, and then tomorrow is some more nonsense. I don't know what it means for communities to be compliant with immigrants. I don't know what none of that means. I'm back on it. I do not understand what any of that means. Like, what do you mean being compliant with immigration? What does that mean, right? That's a responsibility of the federal government. What money is the federal government giving local government for them to make sure that they're compliant with immigration policy or whatever? Like, what even does that mean? It's just unfortunate, whatever it is, that we live in a crazy state, right? Because we live in the state of Florida where our governor thinks that he's part of the federal government and he's making immigration laws that judges are saying, bro, you can't do that. But he's like, I don't care, I'm gonna do it anyway. He got an attorney general trying to say immigrants can't come into the state of Florida or else you're gonna get arrested. That ain't your business. You understand what I'm saying? So this whole idea of them putting out lists of communities that are not compliant, I don't know how to explain that because I don't know what that means. That do not make no sense to me. You know what I'm saying? I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. What do you want these communities to do, right? And in the hypocrisy in them saying that is because I see this, they're literally picking up the people that's doing exactly what they said they wanted them to do. There's that, we want to know that you're here, right? And you know who's getting screwed? The people who let them know that they're here, right? Like, those are the folks that they're messing with, sending thousands and thousands of miles away from their family, putting them in proceedings and getting them removed and deported, or having them living in inhumane conditions because they're trying to overcrowd facilities. So, you know, I don't think ICE, DHS, whoever is any position to talk about anybody that's doing things the wrong way, right? Because everything they're doing is the wrong way because they're losing in court, and every time they lose, they do some pretzel, mind twist thing and create some law or some policy. We're like, what does that even mean, right? So they're in no position to say people aren't doing the right thing because they're absolutely not doing the right thing at all. They're not even following their own rules. That's what I'm gonna say on that.
Christine?
I don't have a comment on that one.
Like, what do you mean? Not compliant? Like, y'all ain't compliant,
All right, so let's move on to Harvard. A lot is going on over there in Boston.
I've registered to so many Harvard free classes. Like, my uncle sent me a link. He's like, Harvard's giving free education, just as a middle finger to Trump. And I was like, I'm in. I even called them today. I was like, hey, listen, how many classes can I take? I'm not kidding. I love Harvard. I didn't know how much I love Harvard until just now. Yes.
And the thing is, right, the people who they really want to take the classes, they're the ones that's not going to take them, right? Like, they're trying to get these, it's these folks who don't really understand the separation of powers and, that we have three co-equal branches of government and, they don't know, what the job of the vice president is, and they don't know that the president not supposed to take $400 million jets from other countries or whatever. Those are the people that Harvard is trying to get to take a class so they could just educate them on how this thing go. And they're the main ones not taking them. Because you don't need another class, Christine, but I'm here for you. Take the class.
I'm loving it. I was like, can I get a second master's with
right?
this?
But the people who they want to take the class won't take the classes. They just want to sit in their ignorance, That might have been a little elitist for me to say. I apologize. that might have been a little elitist comment. I'm sorry about that, but I'm telling you.
But yes, Harvard is giving out free classes for those that are interested in getting certifications or getting taught by Ivy League professors.
One starts tomorrow.
While they fight out this battle with the president, and so
we need more people to stand up like that. In all honesty, we need people to say, I don't really care what the consequences are. You are not going to bully us. You are not going to push us around. You are not going to tell us what we can and cannot do with our student enrollment or whatever. Why? Because you are not God. You are not the Constitution. Although you think you are, and you probably have not read it because you probably can't read the Constitution, but you are not the Constitution.
Okay, so the thing about it is that we keep forgetting that we have a petty person that's the president of the United States, right? who has no emotional maturity whatsoever. This man is mad at Harvard because his kid didn't get in, because he didn't get in, his daddy ain't get in, his sons ain't get in. That's why he mad at Harvard, because there's a whole bunch of schools here. Why you picking on them, right? You mad because Obama went there, you mad that
graduate from Harvard. How come the black president got to go to Harvard and I couldn't go? Well,
because you can't make a coherent sentence, bro. You know, your daddy paid for you to go to Penn. You listen, and the thing is, like, how can you not go? This is the guy who would not release his grades. Forget his tax returns. He would not release his grades, right? He tells you that he's a genius, but he would not release his grades, to the point where he said he would sue the schools if they made his grades public. Listen, if my grades, because I have to send my transcripts to all these jobs I got to apply for. Lucky for him, he never had to apply for a job, so nobody had to see his transcripts. But if you're such a genius and you're not ashamed of what your transcripts say and what your grades are, why are you threatening to sue people if they release them? That's why you ain't getting a Harvard, homeboy.
Do you get grades when you just pay for your diploma? I'm not sure. Like, do you get grades?
Listen, but I know there's a professor that was on the record that said he was like one of the dumbest students he ever taught, right? There's a video about that I don't believe is AI generated. No, we're not going to move along, because this is an important part of the conversation. And the reason why I was making that point is because he's attacking this school because it's personal, right? And that is not what the president of the United States is supposed to do. It's to go have a hit list of people or places that bothered him, and that he's going to use his power as having the top job in the United States to cause all this trouble for the institution and other people, right? Saying that you're not going to give first he was like, I'm not giving any visas to any international students. And of course, like, bro, you can't do that. And so now he's like, well, okay, we know we got to give them, but we're going to delay it because now we're going to look at what those students post on social media. Now he's getting into First Amendment stuff. Like, this is crazy. This is because this man is mad that his kid didn't get in. And now look at what he's doing. And in the meantime, instead of doing the work of the people, because people voted for him to go do something for them, he's not doing anything for them. Everything he's doing is for him. And they're at the detriment of everybody else. And that is something that needs to be considered. That was my rant.
Thank you, Sandra.
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to move on to Boston. Still in Boston, right? Yeah. We know that a judge in Indira Talwani, I believe her name is, she ruled that they didn't have the right to stop the humanitarian parole programs for migrants. So, you know, we know that you're not giving out legal advice, but with this ruling, how far do we go with that?
So I think that he doesn't have to re-up that program. That program is like either expired already or set to expire soon anyways. But you know, like, again, it was a program, it had a time frame. Do you want to renew it? You can. He's not going to. That's fine. But what's happening is that he's putting people in situations that they didn't expect. You come in with the understanding that you have 2 years here, and then all of a sudden, like, nope, you're illegal. Go figure something out. It's like, wait, that's that whole due process stuff that he seems to not understand, like, at all. And that's kind of where the courts are like, no, you gotta give people notice, opportunity, time to respond, give them a right to do something. Like, you just can't just go disrupting people's lives when they came with a certain understanding, right? So that's part of why, you know, they're saying no, because again, he just thinks he can do whatever he wants. Again, he continues to lose, so he gets mad and he gets even more petty. You know, yeah, the people are here, they have their time, and once it's up, either they figure out another way to have lawful status in the United States, and if they don't, then, you know, they have to make decisions about returning home. But to just say, okay, that's it, I mean, that's usually not how things work. You got to give people notice and opportunity.
I know you were just there.
So I saw. I'm gonna read off of Flick's Instagram, because it says that basically currently the administration was okay. Who does this help? It says, so this protects people that came through Uniting for Ukraine, Operation Allies Welcome, Central American Minors Parole, family reunification parole, military parole in place, and the CHNV parole, Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans. So it says, if you're under any of these parole programs, you now have the right to pursue immigration benefits again. And what does that mean for you? That means you can now reapply for your adjustment of status, which is great. Apply now. Apply for work permits, apply for TPS, asylum, or re-parole. So that's basically what it is. And they said, just spread the word that you're legally safe to pursue your benefits.
Right. And one of the better programs that they're talking about is that parole in place program. That was the one that, if you're not familiar with it, that was the one where Biden had said that if a person was married, I believe, to a USC, and they had been in the United States for 10 years, and the reason why they couldn't adjust their status is because they came in like EWI, meaning without inspection, and they didn't have a parole, that they can actually apply for the parole, get it, and then get their green card in the United States, right? And as soon as 45 came in, that was the first things he was like, nope, we're not doing that. They were accepting applications, I think, for like 30 days. And he was like, no, we're not accepting it again. Because I have some friends who, like, they got their application submitted, they were approved, and then the other ones that came in right after, they refunded all of the checks. So it was like a real big up and down. But it's a very useful program because, again, that person has to show that they've been here 10 years. I think they either had to been here 10 years or married for 10 years. And the only reason they can't get their green card is because the way they ultimately came in. And mind you, all of these programs always require a criminal background check, right? So if the concern is about like felons getting any benefits, that's not going to happen because all of these things require you to do a background check to make sure you're not a felon. And if you are, some felonies are waiver eligible. Most of them are not, so you wouldn't have a bad hombre or a bad, mujer, getting papers because, again, that process includes a background check.
Awesome. So we have good news, and I think that it's good to end on a good note. Like that is really, really good.
That is good news. But I think he's going to the Supreme Court with that one again. So
yes, but I do have a question. Does that affect the Supreme Court ruling for the Venezuelans?
But for the TPS decision that they made, because remember that decision was just about like they're allowed to go for, like the government was allowed to move forward to make their argument. So that was more of a procedural thing than something on the merits of the case. So that was more of a procedural, at least my understanding of it was that was more of a procedural thing than actually about the merits of the case in that last ruling that we talked about. But this right here actually gives the people the opportunity to go file your papers again. So I'm sure there's some attorneys that probably had those things like stacked up in a pile and they're going to mail a whole bunch of checks today and tomorrow and stay up till midnight to get them done.
Good.
Wow. So much. Anything else that we can discuss? I mean, we just went through like three.
Yeah. So, and also one of the other concerns, and I'm not trying to say this to tell people not to go to court, but what I'm saying is be careful if you're in proceedings and the government is offering to dismiss your case. Say no, because what's happening is that they're dismissing cases and there are ICE agents outside and they're arresting people outside of the courtrooms in the courthouses. So don't let them dismiss your cases, particularly if you've been here less than 2 years, because they're going to detain you.
So I have a few friends that are afraid to go to their appointment. They have appointments in August. And one is a very close family member, actually. And we were talking, we were all having like family dinner. And we were talking about how, ICE is showing up, like, while you go to do your check-in, they're showing up. And then this family member says, oh, I have an appointment in August. And we all stood back and said, you're not a citizen? Like these are hardcore Trump supporters. And we were like, hold on a second.
Oh,
you're not a citizen?
Oh.
The shock that was on our face. And the person was like, no, I'm not. And I check in. And I was like,
wait, check in as having a court hearing, or they have an order of supervision and they have to check in with ICE? Because those are different things. It's a couple of different things. Because some people may have been here, was a resident, probably committed a crime. I'm not saying this is your family member. I'm not saying that's who they are. They probably maybe have committed a crime, wasn't removable for some reason or another, and they have to check in once a year. Or it could have been a person that came in without status, something, they applied for a stay, they have to check in for a year. That's checking in at ICE.
I think it's that one that they have to check in
every year. So that's a little bit different. But this is like people who have court dates, right? Appointments to go to court, filing their applications. And then there was a time where when Biden was in office, he made certain cases what they call low priority cases, because he's like, listen, these people ain't doing nothing. They got their applications. We don't just leave them alone, right? Some of those matters got recalendared, like back in court, and then what the court is doing is like the government said, oh, we're gonna dismiss it, and the person like, oh, that's good, I'll wait to get my interview, with the asylum unit, and next thing you know, they walk outside, they have a dismissal. It was an expedited removal situation that they weren't aware of, and they're getting detained and put in a facility. Not that they're not going to be able to continue their hearings, because when they, most likely they will, but they're just going to have to do it in a detained setting. And I'm telling you, a lot of folks, Chrome is back to being overcrowded again. So they're sending people Texas, New Mexico, California, all those types of things. You're going to be thousands and thousands of miles away from your family. So it could be a little bit different. So now some of the judges they have what they call televideo hearings. It's something called WebEx. So if a person can have their hearing via WebEx, I would strongly recommend that they appear by video instead of going to the building. And that's
how do they request that?
So in some of the judges, that's how they do their hearings. It'll tell you, like on their notice, it'll say internet based, and then it'll say in person. So if they have an internet base, that means they can do it. Sometimes you can request that if you have young children, or you have some reason, you can ask to appear by video. Because I think most of the judges are, well, not most, I think almost most of the judges, they do have web-based hearings. Some of them allows you to do it without requesting it, and there are others you have to request it in order for you to be able to appear that way. So I suspect there's going to be an increase in that demand, because they're picking people up. Because I would not say don't go to court at all, because when you don't go, you're going to get ordered deported, what they call in absentia, that's in your absence, and it's difficult to get your case reopened again because you didn't show up, right? Like, what's your reason? I ain't go because I was scared. That's definitely not a reason that you can give that's going to be legitimate. So you may put yourself in a worse position by not showing up at all. So what I would recommend is that people, and I'm not giving legal advice, I'm just saying I would recommend see if you can appear video.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Sandra. And I guess we can end on this. I know that we all know that there have been a huge pressure put, and rightfully so, on GOP congressional members that are in South Florida that represent a large portion of not just Venezuelans, but immigrant populations who are just not happy with what's going on. So I would like to talk a little bit about Congresswoman Salazar, who is pushing a path to, I'm not sure if it's necessarily some kind of legal status, but not citizenship. But the point is she's voicing that, and she is making it known that she is advocating for that. So I kind of want
to come into her community and have that conversation with people. Where does she talk about this? Where does she do that?
It's so funny, right? Because when I read it, I thought about you. I'm like, okay, well, you need.
Well, where does she do that? Is that the one where she invited people to DC to go talk to her and then said that, or did she go and face the music of the people in her community and let them tell her how they felt about this?
Well, I do think she's using it through media. She's communicating that through media outlets, but it is widely covered that she is specifically pushing for that. Now, I don't know if
I need her to go get some of that smoke before I feel any kind. Yeah.
I don't know if it is a path to citizenship or some kind of legal status. I personally, for one, I just think that with all that we have seen, we should not be fighting for TPS. We shouldn't, because it has shown that it is not a sustainable process that you can.
It is. There's people that's had TPS for like 20 years. Like,
no,
it is. It's not a problem.
It is a problem because at any point we can't just assume that Trump is the only one who's going to do this.
He is.
Sandra.
Listen,
no, but not only that.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. That dude is something different. I got my green card through a program that a Republican president put forward.
Exactly. You mentioned that several times.
So I'm telling you, like this, what he's doing is unique to him, and he's probably the only person that can get away with his foolishness because people are scared of him because he's so petty and vengeful. You understand what I'm saying?
So now, Sandra.
What?
Let's move the conversation. My position, me bringing up this specific congresswoman, is asking you guys, do you think that something can happen here? That's all. I'm just.
So listen.
Yeah. So what I was disagreeing with, okay. Let me just make what I was disagreeing with is for us to say no, not fight for TPS. We absolutely need to fight for that, and then you fight for more. But there's no that I would.
At what point do we accept that we every 2 years in the Haitian community we're out there again? TPS.
But we weren't doing that. The time.
No, yes, we did. We did it on
Biden. Hold up. Let me tell you.
We did it on Biden.
Not really, because that was it. Listen, that was like a fight. That was a fight that wasn't even really gonna be a fight. I'm telling you, like there are a lot of folks out here that's out, that say, "Oh, we're fighting for this." I'm like, it was never gonna be no problem to start. I'm telling you, because I'm in this space enough that I know there are things that happen for show. You understand what I'm saying? There are things that happen for show. The only time that TPS was truly threatened was under the Trump administration, under 45 and under 47. Those are the only times where those things were truly at risk. They were not at risk under the Biden administration. They were not. People were acting like it was, but they were not at risk during those times. I'm telling you, they were not at risk of them not happening. Right now, should Biden have done more? Like, should he have done more? Say, oh no, I'm gonna pass some law to allow people to get green card. Yes, he should have done that. But the idea that was going to get taken away, no. That was truly not at risk. So we're not fighting every 18 months for TPS like people try to make it seem to be. People, folks, they out here fighting for things that shouldn't even been no fight. As a matter of fact, they end up agitating folks, and then we end up losing what we have because they're agitating in a space that did not need that we didn't need. They didn't need to come make no noise about, and we end up losing. I think we end up losing things because of these fake advocates that be talking about stuff.
All right.
So I was also, as you said, a fake advocate. I was a fake advocate. My first time that I ran, and I'm being honest, I was like, pathway to citizenship. We're done with TPS. And I get it. But what I have actually learned in these past few weeks, in these past few months, is that there are pathways to citizenship. TPS is temporary, but with the right attorney and the right path, you can apply for other statuses. A lot of people, the reason why they don't have their residency is because of them. They just brush it off. They didn't feel the need to go apply for another status or whatever the case is, or maybe they don't have the money for an attorney to really see, okay, what are their other options? But there are other options, okay? And I want to also make it clear that Salazar is not the first member of Congress to introduce a better plan for
under the Trump administration.
Okay, but listen, when we talk about things that are just for show, whatever it is that she's proposing, she cannot pass. But she needs to save face because her community is livid with her. So
you don't think
she's not the only one. Carlos Jimenez and Mario Diaz-Balart are also proposing. I think there's something with an I-20 or
that's what the Cubans. There's this thing called an I-220 that when Cubans, they used to just parole them when they came at the border, and then they started giving them that document, and it doesn't allow them to participate in the Cuban Adjustment Act, because normally if a Cuban's been here a year and a day, they can apply for green card, but it also depends on your manner of entry. And that particular document for a while didn't allow them to adjust because it was like you enter without inspection and there's no waiver for that. So yeah, that was part of what that was.
So
Okay,
what I'm
so you
saying
don't
is
think-
before we start, giving credit or whatever the case is, we have to understand the circumstances that these members of Congress are in. I just read the other day the seats that the DCCC are investing in, and I didn't even think Florida was going to make the list because I thought that the Democratic Party was done with Florida. There's 3 seats that made the list, and Salazar is number 1.
Salazar, Jimenez, and Diaz-Balart.
Those are not the 3 that they're investing in.
They're trying to get her out before they get Diaz-Balart and Jimenez.
Because they have to see which ones are winnable. They can
Those
flip Salazar.
Too.
Yes,
those
Salazar is an R+6. The other ones, I did my research. Mario Diaz-Balart is an R+8, and Jimenez is an R+10.
But it shouldn't be, because that's the seat. That is the seat that Mercosur Powell had.
Yes, it is, but you have to understand demographics have changed. When Mercosur Powell was in office, it was before redistricting. Things have been redistricted. But listen, Salazar's and District 13, Charlie Crist's old seat, and District 7.
That's Anna. Paulina. Yeah,
exactly. They're investing in her seat, and then
that was a Democratic seat before.
Exactly, and they're investing in District 7, which is in Deltona. I don't necessarily know who the rep is right now in Deltona, but anyway, what I'm saying is Salazar is on their list, and they are raising money for that seat. So she's in. She has every reason.
That's misguided. I think that's a little misguided, but that's probably a conversation for a different episode. That's a little bit misguided, because but I will give her credit, because so I can't say I want to say something, but I'll tell y'all that off air. I can't say it on air, but she has been, of all of the Republicans, she has been more pro-immigrant than any than most of the other ones. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that the Democrats would want to try to take her out over the others is a little it's a bit misguided, because on that issue she's always, I have to say, she's been better than all of them and all of that, right? But so Naomi, I'm gonna tell you why I don't really respect what she's doing, right? Because first of all, I don't think she did that here. I think she talked about that in DC, which is like, girl, bye, right? But the other thing was, when the big beautiful bill that the House passed in the middle of the night at 1:00 in the morning, it passed with 1 vote, right? She could have been the one Republican to say no to that, and that bill wouldn't have passed. You understand what I'm saying? So if you really want to do something for people, that's the thing you should have did. They're talking about cutting $1 trillion in Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP benefits, free lunches for kids, all this kind of stuff. So if you want to gain respect, that's what you shouldn't have voted for, because that thing passed with one vote. She could have been the 1 vote to tie that thing up and not go forward. So that's part of why I'm giving her no props for her to talk about something that's harder. That immigration is a harder issue to get folks on board than the fact about Medicaid, Medicare, and you live in the state of Florida. I mean, please.
I love that point.
So,
ladies, it
yes,
has
ma'am.
truly been a heartfelt conversation, to
Always.
say. Thank you for making yourselves available. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for your time. I know that we're all busy with so many other things, but we put the time aside to come here, and we hope that the information that we're sharing is helping you make a better decision. If not for yourself, then for a family member or just your neighbor, right? We are all in this together. Everyone is affected by this one way or the other. And like Christine mentioned earlier, you can just be at a family dinner, and conversations like legal status maybe are things that we never discussed before. And right now, some of our family members may be suffering in silence, right? Because they just never really talked about it, because they felt, like Christine said, they had it under control. And now we have a situation where the entire country is feeling the weight of not having a pathway to citizenship in this country. And while I understand that TPS could be a good pathway. Again, I am just really praying and speaking up for those that have the power to advocate for a new pathway to citizenship here in this country for immigrants, because they are the backbone of this country. You know, my mother came here with absolutely nothing. My father came here absolutely nothing. My grandmother died at 80 something years old, and she got her citizenship picking tomatoes in Immokalee. So I don't think that there's one of us, whether you were born here.
Did that too. Is it a jardin?
Exactly. And so we all know the stories. And, you know, me running for Commissioner of Agriculture was literally on the strength of my grandmother's story. And so there are so many backstories that we don't even have the time to talk about, but everybody's being affected in one way or the other. And so I just want to say thank you. And I hope that someone out there is listening to this and you're being encouraged and strengthened. Christine?
I wanted to make sure that we didn't have any comments. I realized that in the past episodes that people have commented, and I don't know if we ever noticed. So before I log off, I wanted to see, were there any comments?
I don't see any comments on in the stream. Yeah, no.
Okay, because I noticed it afterwards, but one of the shows that we did, they said 3 powerhouse women, and we never got to respond to that because, you know, we don't check the comments. So I just wanted to see if we had any comments, but yeah, always a pleasure with you ladies. I love it.
So like the page on Facebook and subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Definitely do that. We need to do that more. Like tell people to go ahead and subscribe to the channel to kind of spread and share the videos, share everything. And also make comments, you know, say some things about the show, say what you want to talk about. Say if, you know, anything you heard kind of resonated with you or somebody that you know. So definitely, you know, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, like the page on Facebook, and yeah. Yeah, I think I just started a TikTok too, so I do that.
All right, so now going forward, guys, we'll make sure that Christine can be our comment person, looking at the comments, and then at least once during the week we can go back on the link to see if you did ask a question, and then we can ensure that we answer your questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
So continue to write to your elected officials, call them, let them know how you feel about what's going on. Let them know what it is that you want to see. Because one of the excuses that they tend to give them, we don't know what the people are thinking. We haven't heard from them. So continue to write them, continue to call them, because, you know, we don't complain without offering certain solutions. Just continue to write, continue to call. If you know anybody in the New Jersey area, there's an election June 10th. Ross Baraka is running for governor. I think he's trying to be the Democratic nominee for governor in New Jersey. So go ahead, participate in that. I think there are a couple other races. I'll look into those to, you know, talk about that, since, you know, we have people throughout the United States, but stay engaged, you know, get ready. There are going to be elections in next year. Pay attention to what these people are doing, and don't be scared to tell people to vote them out.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Absolutely. Bye, guys. See you next time.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
Elections have